For over a decade, she has been a fixture on our screens, a central figure in the ever-evolving drama of one of television's most famous families. We first knew her as Caryn Chandler, the diligent and capable manager of Roloff Farms. Then she became Matt Roloff's girlfriend, his confidant and partner in the wake of a shocking and public divorce. Today, she stands as his fiancée, the woman poised to become the next Mrs. Roloff, the matriarch in waiting of a multi-million-dollar empire built on pumpkins and reality television. But what if everything we think we know about her is a lie? What if the woman we've watched for 10 years, the woman who has won Matt Roloff's heart and trust, is not Caryn Chandler at all? Our investigation has uncovered a story so shocking, so deeply buried that it threatens to shatter the very foundation of the Roloff family. We have found evidence suggesting Caryn Chandler may not be her real name, and that her past holds a dark secret that she has spent decades trying to escape. Before we dive into the explosive details of what could be the biggest scandal in reality TV history, we need your help. This is the kind of story that powerful people don't want to tell. To make sure these truths get out, please take 1 second to hit that like button, subscribe to LPBW Update, and ring the notification bell. Every single click helps us fight the algorithm and bring you the uncensored stories you won't find anywhere else. Your support is crucial. Thank you. Now let's get back to the shocking truth. To understand the magnitude of this potential deception, we must first revisit the image of Caryn that has been so carefully crafted for the public. She entered the narrative of Little People, Big World not as a central character, but as a background player, the efficient farm manager who kept the pumpkin patch running like a well-oiled machine. During the tumultuous final years of Matt and Amy's marriage, Caryn was portrayed as a neutral, almost invisible force. She was simply an employee, someone Matt relied on for business logistics. In the early seasons where she appears, she is professional, reserved, and always focused on the task at hand. This professional distance was, for a time, her defining characteristic. She was calm in the storm of the Roloff family's personal conflicts. When Matt and Amy's separation became a reality, Caryn's role began to shift, slowly at first, then with undeniable momentum. She was the shoulder Matt leaned on, the friend who understood the immense pressures of running the farm, a business that was intrinsically tied to his identity and his family's legacy. Their transition from a professional relationship to a romantic one was presented to the world as a natural, almost inevitable evolution. Matt painted a picture of a woman who understood him in a way no one else could, a partner who shared his vision for the future of the farm and his life. He found solace in her company, a stark contrast to the years of conflict that had defined his relationship with Amy. To the viewers, and certainly to Matt, Caryn became a symbol of a fresh start, a second chance at happiness. She was seen as the steady hand that helped Matt navigate the choppy waters of divorce and the subsequent division of the family property. She was his advocate, his business partner, and his love. The narrative was simple and compelling. After years of unhappiness, Matt had finally found his soulmate, a woman who wasn't just in love with him, but with the life he had built. She seamlessly integrated into his world, vacationing with him in Arizona, helping him with his building projects, and standing by his side as he faced health scares and family strife. She became the gatekeeper to Matt, the person through whom all farm business and increasingly family matters seemed to flow. The engagement was the final seal on this public image. The diamond ring on her finger wasn't just a promise of marriage. It was a symbol of her complete and total assimilation into the Roloff dynasty. She had completed the journey from the pumpkin patch to the pinnacle of the Roloff empire. She was, for all intents and purposes, the new matriarch, and Matt Roloff's unwavering trust in her was the bedrock upon which their entire future was being built. But even as this fairy tale romance played out on our screens, eagle-eyed viewers and critics began to notice subtle but persistent red flags. The most glaring of these was the complete and utter void of information about Caryn's life before she set foot on Roloff Farms. In the world of reality television, where entire family trees are often paraded before the cameras for storyline purposes, Caryn remained an island. Who were her parents? Where did she grow up? What was her life like before she became the farm manager? These are basic questions that, for any other major reality TV personality, would have been answered within a season or two. Yet, with Caryn, there was nothing. A total blackout. In early seasons, when cast members would occasionally ask about her background, her answers were consistently vague and evasive. She would offer a generic smile, a non-committal shrug, and change the subject back to the farm or to Matt. She masterfully deflected any and all inquiries into her past, painting herself as a private person who simply wasn't comfortable sharing the spotlight. At first, this was accepted. But as her role grew from employee to fiancée, the lack of transparency became increasingly conspicuous. Why was there no mention of her extended family? No childhood friends making cameo appearances? No nostalgic trips back to my hometown? Most reality stars leveraged their families for more screen time. Caryn seemed intent on pretending hers didn't exist. This created an informational vacuum, a biographical black hole that was frankly bizarre for someone so prominent in the public eye. The official story was that she was just Caryn Chandler, a woman from Oregon who took a job at a local farm. But the complete absence of any verifiable history, coupled with her guarded demeanor whenever the topic of her past arose, began to paint a picture, not of a private person, but of a person with something to hide. It was a silent, persistent alarm bell that many of us heard but couldn't quite decipher. What was she so afraid of us discovering? Why was the book of her life before Roloff Farms so aggressively sealed shut? These weren't just idle questions. They were the first threads of a mystery that would unravel into a story far darker and more complex than anyone could have possibly imagined. The official narrative, the one curated for television and public consumption, is that Caryn Chandler is a private, unassuming woman from Oregon who, through hard work and a chance encounter, found love and a new life at Roloff Farms. It's a story of second chances, of a simple woman who fell for her boss and became the rock in his life. She is a devoted partner, a loving grandmother to her own grandchildren, and a supportive, if sometimes controversial, figure in the lives of Matt's children. Her history, according to this version of events, is unremarkable and, more importantly, irrelevant to her current life. Her past is her own business, and her reluctance to share it is merely a sign of her humility and desire to keep the focus on Matt and the family she is joining. This story, while plausible on the surface, requires the audience to ignore the glaring lack of detail and the persistent questions that have followed her for years. It asks us to believe that a woman at the center of a media empire has managed to keep her entire life story prior to the age of 40 completely under wraps through sheer force of will. But now, a darker picture is beginning to emerge, a picture that suggests the official story is not just incomplete, but a deliberate and calculated fabrication. It began with a single cryptic message sent to our channel. The message was from a woman who claimed to be a former co-worker of Caryn's, but from a job long before Roloff Farms in a different state entirely. The source, who has requested to remain anonymous for her own safety, was terrified, but she felt compelled to speak out. She said she had been watching the show for years, wrestling with a secret that she couldn't believe no one else had uncovered. Her claim was simple, yet earth-shattering. She stated unequivocally that the woman America knows as Caryn Chandler was once known by a completely different name. "We all knew her by another name," the source wrote. When I saw her on that TV show years ago, my blood ran cold. I couldn't believe it was her. But it is, I'm sure of it, and Caryn Chandler is not her name. This bombshell allegation from a credible source, providing specific details about a time and place, was the key that unlocked a door Caryn had apparently kept bolted for decades. The darker picture suggests that Caryn Chandler is not a person, but a persona. A carefully constructed identity adopted to escape a past that was anything but private and unremarkable. It posits that her arrival at Roloff Farms wasn't a coincidence, but a calculated move. A quiet, unassuming job in rural Oregon would be the perfect place to disappear, to start over where no one would think to look for a woman with a history she was desperate to bury. The secrecy, the vagueness, the lack of family, it all starts to make a terrifying kind of sense when viewed through this new lens. It wasn't about privacy, it was about preservation. The preservation of a lie. Armed with this explosive tip, our team began the monumental task of digging deeper, of trying to unearth a truth that had been intentionally buried for more than 2 decades. The source provided us with a crucial piece of the puzzle, a different name in a different state. The name was Katherine O'Malley, and the state was Arizona. Our investigation started there, in the digital archives of city records, old phone directories, and local newspapers from the Phoenix metropolitan area from the mid to late 1990s. For weeks, we hit nothing but dead ends. The name was common enough, and the trail was ice cold. But then we had a breakthrough. We cross-referenced the name with corporate registration documents from the era, specifically within the burgeoning tech sector of the .com boom. And that's when we found her. Katherine O'Malley, listed as a junior accountant at a promising but now defunct tech startup called Innovatech Solutions. The company had burned bright and fast like so many others of that era before collapsing in a spectacular fashion in 1999. The official reason for its demise was listed as insolvency, a victim of the bursting tech bubble. But as we dug into local newspaper archives, specifically the Phoenix Chronicle, we discovered the unseen truth. The company's collapse wasn't just a business failure, it was a criminal investigation. A front-page story from October 1999 detailed a massive, unsolved corporate embezzlement case. Over $2.5 million had vanished from the company's accounts over a period of 18 months, siphoned off through a complex web of shell corporations and offshore accounts. The authorities suspected it was an inside job, but the scheme was so sophisticated that they struggled to identify the architect. The article mentioned several key employees who were being investigated, and one who was wanted for questioning, but had, according to the report, vanished without a trace. That employee was the junior accountant who had access to all the necessary financial systems, a young woman named Katherine O'Malley. The theory that began to form was chilling. Is it possible that Katherine O'Malley, facing the imminent collapse of her scheme and the looming threat of federal prison, orchestrated a disappearance? Did she flee Arizona, liquidate what assets she could, and set out to create a new life and a new identity? The timeline fits perfectly. The Innovatech scandal broke in late 1999. Caryn Chandler, as far as any public records show, seems to have materialized in Oregon in the early 2000s, eventually taking the job at Roloff Farms. It was the perfect hiding place, a cash-heavy, seasonally frantic business where a competent manager who didn't ask too many questions would be a godsend. She could blend in, keep her head down, and slowly build a new life, a new identity, far from the ashes of her old one. The woman we see on TV, the one who is so adept at managing the farm's finances and business operations, suddenly looks very different. Is that business acumen something she learned on the job, or is it the residual skill set of a woman who once allegedly orchestrated a multi-million-dollar embezzlement scheme? The unseen truth, according to our investigation, is that Matt Roloff didn't hire a simple farm manager. He may have unknowingly hired a fugitive, a woman with a secret identity who was running from a dark and criminal past. To substantiate a theory this explosive, we knew we needed more than just a plausible narrative. We needed concrete evidence, however circumstantial, to connect the woman known as Caryn Chandler to the ghost of Katherine O'Malley. Our first piece of evidence comes from those archived newspaper clippings from the Phoenix Chronicle. While the grainy microfilm images don't include a photograph of O'Malley, they describe her in detail. 27 years old, 5'7", brown hair, brown eyes. The physical description is a perfect match for a younger Caryn Chandler. The articles detail the method of the embezzlement. Small, almost untraceable transfers made over a long period, a death by 1,000 cuts that drained the company dry. The reports quote a senior executive at Innovatech who said, "Whoever did this was patient, meticulous, and understood our accounting system inside and out. It was a long con." This description of a patient and meticulous operator, someone capable of playing the long game, will sound eerily familiar to anyone who has watched Caryn's slow, methodical rise within the Roloff empire. The second, and perhaps most visually compelling piece of evidence, is a yearbook photograph we managed to uncover from a 1990 Phoenix area high school. The photo is of a smiling teenage girl with the name Katherine O'Malley printed beneath it. While hairstyles and the blush of youth have changed, the facial structure is undeniably familiar. The set of the eyes, the distinct shape of her smile, the line of her jaw. When you place this yearbook photo side by side with a photo of Caryn from her earliest appearances on Little People, Big World, the resemblance is staggering, almost undeniable. It is the kind of resemblance that goes beyond coincidence. It is the face of the same woman, separated by 15 years and allegedly a stolen identity. Finally, we must cite the information from our anonymous sources, not just the initial coworker, but another we managed to track down who also worked at Innovatech Solutions. This second source, who spoke to us on the condition of absolute anonymity, confirmed that Katherine, or Kate as they called her, was ambitious, charming, and incredibly smart with numbers, but they also described her as being intensely private, almost secretive. Kate never talked about family or her background, the source recalled. She was friendly, but there was always a wall up. Looking back after she disappeared and the news about the money came out, it all made sense. It felt like she had been planning her escape for a long time. Furthermore, we have reached out to our contacts within law enforcement, presenting our findings. While no official would go on the record, an anonymous source familiar with cold cases in the region confirmed that the Innovatech embezzlement file remains open, though it has been dormant for years. They noted that cases like this are never truly closed, and that new evidence, such as the discovery of a potential suspect living under a new identity, would be more than enough to trigger a renewed and very serious federal investigation. These pieces of evidence, when viewed together, form a powerful and deeply disturbing mosaic. The newspaper clippings establish the crime, the yearbook photo provides a visual link, and the testimony from sources paints a picture of a woman with the means, motive, and personality to pull off such a grand deception. The true climax of this story, the moment the carefully constructed world of Caryn Chandler began to fracture, did not happen under the glare of television cameras or in a public showdown. It happened quietly, privately, and with the brutal efficiency of a targeted strike. According to a source with intimate knowledge of the Roloff family's inner circle, the catalyst was not a reporter or a private eye, but someone from the very past Caryn had worked so hard to erase, her own estranged sister. For over 20 years, this sibling, let's call her Jennifer, had lived with the shame and confusion of her sister Katherine's sudden disappearance. She had watched from afar as a woman with her sister's face, but a different name, rose to prominence on a popular reality show. For years, she did nothing, perhaps out of fear, perhaps out of a twisted sense of family loyalty, or perhaps simply because she couldn't believe her own eyes. But the engagement announcement changed everything. Seeing her sister, the woman she knew as a fugitive from justice, smiling on the cover of magazines, flaunting a diamond ring, and preparing to marry into a multi-million-dollar fortune was a bridge too far. It was a betrayal, not just of a distant past, but of the very family Katherine had abandoned. Our source tells us that Jennifer's first move was an anonymous email sent to a general inquiry address on the Roloff Farms website. The email was cryptic, containing just a single line: "Ask Matt's fiancée about Innovatech Solutions and what happened in Phoenix in 1999. This initial probe was designed to be untraceable, a warning shot across the bow. It's believed that this email was likely dismissed by a staffer as just another piece of bizarre fan mail. When the email elicited no response, Jennifer escalated her efforts. She drafted a 2-page handwritten letter. This was not an anonymous tip. She signed it with her real name. She sent it via registered mail, requiring a signature upon delivery, ensuring it would land directly in Matt Roloff's hands. This letter, which is now believed to be the subject of intense legal scrutiny, was the bomb that detonated the entire situation. We have been told by our sources what this letter contained, and it is absolutely devastating. It began not with an accusation, but with a plea. Jennifer allegedly wrote about their shared childhood in Arizona, mentioning specific memories only the two of them would know: a childhood nickname, Katie, the name of a beloved family dog, a scar Katherine got falling out of a tree in their backyard. These details were meant to establish an irrefutable link to prove that she was who she claimed to be. Then the letter turned dark. Jennifer detailed the panic and chaos that engulfed their family in late 1999 when Katherine vanished. She wrote about the FBI agents who came to their parents' house, the questions, the suspicion that the family was hiding her, the shame that followed them for years. She described the heartbreak of their parents, who went to their graves, never knowing if their daughter was dead or alive. The letter then reportedly made a direct and chilling accusation. My sister Katherine was always brilliant with numbers, and she was always ambitious. She told me she had a plan to get rich, a plan that was foolproof. Then the money at her company went missing and she disappeared. Now I see Caryn Chandler, a woman who looks just like my sister, who sounds like my sister, about to marry a rich man. You are a good man, Mr. Roloff. You have built an amazing life for your family. I am writing to you because you deserve to know the truth. You are being conned by a master manipulator. The woman you love is a fugitive, and her entire life with you has been built on a lie. Her name is not Caryn Chandler. Her name is Katherine O'Malley, and she is my sister. Imagine Matt Roloff receiving this letter. A man who, for 10 years, had placed his complete and unconditional trust in this woman. His initial reaction, we are told, was not suspicion, but white-hot rage. He saw it as a despicable, cruel attack, a sophisticated shakedown attempt by a deranged individual trying to extort money from him before the wedding. He was fiercely protective of Caryn. He reportedly refused to even entertain the possibility that there could be a kernel of truth in the letter's contents. He was going to throw it away, burn it, and hire lawyers to track down this Jennifer and sue her for harassment and defamation. But a small, insidious seed of doubt had been planted. The specificity of the details, Innovatech Solutions, the name Katherine, the childhood memories, was unsettling. The confrontation, according to our insider, happened a few days later. It wasn't a screaming match. It was quiet, tense, and utterly soul-destroying. Matt, still wanting to believe in her, decided to give her a chance to dispel this absurdity once and for all. He sat her down in his office, the letter on the desk between them. He explained what he had received, framing it as, "You won't believe the lengths these crazy people will go to." He watched her face for a reaction as he recounted the allegations. At first, she was a rock. She feigned outrage and shock, playing the part of the victim perfectly. She called the letter disgusting and the work of a sick person. But Matt, a shrewd businessman who has negotiated countless deals, was watching her eyes. He was listening not just to her words, but to the spaces between them. He then made a calculated move. He didn't ask her if she was Katherine O'Malley. Instead, he picked one of the specific personal details from the letter. He said, casually, the letter even mentions a childhood nickname, Katie. And that's when it happened. For a fleeting, almost imperceptible moment, a flicker of recognition crossed her face. Her eyes darted away. Her practiced composure cracked, just for a second. It was the involuntary reaction of a person hearing a name they had not allowed themselves to think about for 20 years. In that split second, Matt Roloff's world collapsed. He saw it. He knew. The denial shattered, and a horrifying reality began to set in. He continued to press, asking about Phoenix, about Innovatech. Her denials became weaker, more flustered. The anger was replaced by a visible panic. She couldn't maintain the lie under the weight of such specific, direct questioning from the one person she thought would never doubt her. The confrontation ended not with a confession, but with her terrified silence. And for Matt Roloff, that silence was louder and more damning than any admission of guilt could ever be. The immediate aftermath of that confrontation has been a period of controlled chaos and profound heartbreak. The first and most public consequence, we have been told by sources deep inside their circle, is that the wedding is off. It has not been officially canceled in a public statement. That would invite a firestorm of questions they are not prepared to answer. Instead, it has been indefinitely postponed. The official line being prepared for the public, should anyone ask, will be vague references to unforeseen family matters or the need to focus on a private issue. But behind the scenes, a quiet and frantic disassembly of their future is underway. Calls have been made to wedding planners, caterers, and venues. Deposits have been forfeited. The dream wedding that was supposed to be the triumphant final chapter of their love story has evaporated, leaving behind a wake of unanswered questions and financial losses. The magnificent wedding venue on the farm, a project Matt had poured his heart and soul into, now stands as a monument to a future that will never be. For Matt Roloff, this is more than just a postponed wedding. It is the implosion of his reality. Our sources describe him as being in a state of profound denial and deep psychological turmoil. He is a man adrift. One day, he is clinging to the hope that this is all a massive, elaborate misunderstanding, a terrible lie concocted by a malicious party. The next, he is consumed by a cold, sickening certainty that the last 10 years of his life have been a sham. He has isolated himself, even from his own children, who have long harbored their own reservations about Caryn. He is reportedly not speaking to Caryn directly, communicating instead through intermediaries. He can't bear to look at the woman he loved, the woman he planned to spend the rest of his life with, because he no longer knows who he is looking at. Is she Caryn, his partner and confidant? Or is she Katherine, a stranger, a criminal, a ghost from a past he knew nothing about? This torment has led him to take a significant step. He has, according to our reports, hired a team of high-powered private investigators. This isn't a small-time local PI. This is a top-tier national security firm, the kind that normally handles corporate espionage and high-stakes financial fraud. He has tasked them with one mission: to uncover the absolute truth, to either debunk the sister's letter once and for all or to confirm his worst fears. He has spared no expense, giving them a blank check to dig into every aspect of Caryn Chandler's existence or lack thereof before her arrival in Oregon. And the consequences are escalating far beyond a personal crisis. The letter from Jennifer, the sister, was not just sent to Matt. It's now believed a copy, along with a detailed summary of the allegations, was sent to the FBI field office in Phoenix. This single act has resurrected a ghost from the archives of federal law enforcement. We have spoken with a source with connections to the federal justice system who has confirmed on deep background that the Innovatech Solutions embezzlement case, file number AZ77B1, a cold case that has been dormant for over 2 decades, has been officially reopened. The introduction of a viable suspect, a high-profile public figure, no less, has poured gasoline on the embers of this forgotten investigation. Federal agents are reportedly now looking into not just the original crime, but a host of potential new charges. If Caryn Chandler is indeed Katherine O'Malley, she could be facing charges of wire fraud, mail fraud, and, most significantly, identity fraud. Every legal document she has signed for the past 20 years as Caryn Chandler, driver's licenses, bank accounts, tax returns, employment contracts with Roloff Farms, could be considered a separate criminal offense. The FBI is reportedly taking this with the utmost seriousness, and their investigation is said to be moving with surprising speed. They are allegedly seeking to subpoena financial records, employment histories, and are likely preparing to bring key witnesses, including the former co-workers and the estranged sister, Jennifer, in for formal questioning. The personal betrayal Matt Roloff is experiencing is now dwarfed by a looming federal investigation that threatens to ensnare not just Caryn, but potentially the Roloff Farms business itself, which may have unknowingly been co-managed by a federal fugitive for a decade. The consequences are no longer just emotional, they are legal, financial, and potentially catastrophic for the entire Roloff dynasty. As we look toward the future, this story is balanced on a knife's edge with 2 starkly different possibilities. Is Caryn Chandler or Katherine O'Malley a master manipulator, a brilliant sociopath who played the longest and most audacious con in the history of reality television? In this version of the future, every action she has taken for the last 20-plus years was a calculated step in a grand plan. Fleeing Arizona was Act 1. Creating the identity of Caryn Chandler, a quiet, unremarkable woman, was the perfect camouflage. Taking a job at Roloff Farms was a stroke of genius, a place where she could use her financial acumen in a low-key setting while embedding herself in a world of wealth and opportunity. She patiently waited, playing the role of the loyal employee, watching the cracks form in Matt and Amy's marriage. She saw her opening and seized it, transforming from confidant to girlfriend to fiancée with meticulous precision. Her goal was never just love, it was security, wealth, and the ultimate prize. Becoming the matriarch of the Roloff empire, a position that would grant her access to millions and finally legitimize the fake life she had so carefully constructed. If this is true, then Matt Roloff was not just a partner. He was the final mark in a decades-long scheme. He was the end game. Her entire relationship with him, every loving glance, every word of support, every shared dream was a performance. It was the role of a lifetime, and she was on the cusp of her final triumphant curtain call before the ghost of her past returned to burn down the entire theater. Or is it possible there is another explanation? Could she be the victim of a terrible lie, a pawn in a much larger game? This alternative theory, while less supported by our current information, must be considered. What if the brilliant young accountant, Katherine O'Malley, didn't orchestrate the embezzlement at Innovatech, but discovered it? What if she was a whistleblower who was silenced by powerful, dangerous people higher up in the company? Perhaps they framed her for the crime, making her the perfect scapegoat, and threatened her life, forcing her to run. In this scenario, she didn't flee with millions. She fled with nothing but the clothes on her back, terrified and alone. She created the identity of Caryn Chandler, not to hide her guilt, but to save her own life. She has spent the last 2 decades living in constant fear, looking over her shoulder, knowing that the real criminals were still out there. Her secrecy, her refusal to talk about her past, was not a sign of guilt, but a symptom of trauma. Her love for Matt Roloff, in this version, is real. He and the farm represented the one safe harbor she has ever known, a chance at a normal life she thought she could never have. But she could never tell him the truth, because doing so would put him and the entire family she had come to care for in grave danger. The letter from her sister in this light could be a misguided attempt at reconciliation, or worse, a malicious act of jealousy, reopening a wound that could now destroy the one good thing in her life. So, which is it? Is she a cold, calculating predator who has finally been unmasked? Or is she a tragic figure, a victim forced to live a lie who is now on the verge of losing everything? The fate of a multi-million-dollar television empire, the legacy of the Roloff family, and the freedom of a woman we all thought we knew hangs in the balance. The coming weeks and months will be critical. Will the private investigators hired by Matt find exonerating evidence, or will they uncover a truth even more damning than he can imagine? Will the FBI press charges, leading to a sensational public trial that will lay bare every secret and every lie for the world to see? And what of Matt Roloff? Can a man recover from a betrayal of this magnitude? Can a family ever truly heal when its foundation has been rocked by such a profound deception? The stakes could not be higher. We urge you, our viewers, to analyze the evidence we've presented. What do you believe? Is this a story of ultimate deception or tragic circumstance? Leave your theories, your insights, and your opinions in the comment section below. We will be reading every single one as we continue to follow this developing story. This is just the beginning, and you can be sure that LPBW Update will be here to bring you every shocking new development. To ensure you don't miss a single update in this incredible saga, please hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and activate all notifications. The truth is coming out, and you will want to be here when it does.